Steve Jobs returns from the grave as a chatty AI. This is Will's top story of the day. He says the GPT now reaching into the grave and bringing back whichever assistant you might please. Yeah, I mean, this is not the hard part of AI and chatbots. You can imagine how easy it would be to plug in whichever celebrity you may want to.
Or a loved one.
Easy.
Hey, I'm just saying, this is a really heavy topic, at least for now. And probably in the future.
A new AI chatbot isn't Steve Jobs, but it does sound like him. Although Steve Jobs died more than a decade ago, he's back as an artificial intelligence, kind of. A programmer made a chatbot able to carry on conversations in a voice that sounds like Jobs. Well, we talked about how Apple was patenting that technology to basically take recordings of an individual's voice and then synthesize any statement you might want so that their text messages could be read out loud to you in that person's voice without them having ever read it. Instead they typed it. So if there's enough people that are sort of submitting their training data similar to Mo's face that you know, sort of inserted into whatever the hell was spitting out those terrifying images. It's the same with voice. You can train it up. It can sound pretty accurate and then act as a substitute post-life. You want to play some of it?
Changes in the way we live, work, and interact with one another.
Oh, I wish I can scrub. Can I scrub? Oh, yeah.
What about significant changes in the way we live, work, and interact with one another?
So it's kind of like...
it sounds pretty good.
It's a chat bot. So you chat with it, and then they answer in the audio form.
Yeah. So it's a text to speech.
Uh-huh.
You're asking in text, and then they're translating text to the synthesized version of Steve Jobs' voice. So you're getting basically like an audio.
COVID-19 has had an impact on Apple. It led to the closure of some of our retail stores and disrupted our global supply chain. However, we have adapted quickly and continue to innovate with new products and services that meet the changing needs of our customers in this time of crisis.
There's some weird stuff in there, like, for example, the word we. However, we have adapted quickly. It's like we.
Uh-huh.
Well, is it, you know, if it
digital personality,
they, wouldn't it be they? Because he's not a part of, or does he feel he's always a part of it?
Departure.
However,
it is clear that under his leadership, Apple has continued to innovate and succeed in bringing new products and services to market.
Here we have Jacob. He says, is LimeWire considered a famous pirate?
He's the most famous.
Captain LimeWire.
Yeah.
Or what about the dude, Dread Pirate from early days of crypto Silk Road? That was pretty legit too. I guess as far as pirates go, I guess I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know that full story. Is that guy in prison or is he dead or?
Yeah.
Which one?
Both. He's dead in prison.
Well, that's a different guy, isn't that? Which guy was dead in prison? Another controversial guy recently. The guy with the island.
Epstein? Oh, okay, that guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
The residential construction industry in the United States has seen steady growth over the past few years. According to recent reports, housing starts increased in 2020 despite the pandemic, and experts predict that this trend will continue. There is also a growing demand for energy-efficient homes and sustainable building materials in the industry.
So, it sounds like him.
Right.
There are some, I feel like there some pausing that needs to be, made, that just feels more natural. But I just think that this technology is very dangerous in a way, because you can essentially connect this to like a loved one, and be able to chat with them in the future if they already passed.
But is that really the way you're going to feel chatting with that? Because that it sounds like in this case that like say it's ChatGPT or whatever chatbot it is that's then being synthesized. It's like they can answer any question. Like there's no personality there. You'd be like, what's the square root of, and so it's your loved one's voice. So what? It's just the sound of it. You're not gonna be able to ask about a particular memory. You're not gonna be able to ask about anything personal.
It just reminds me of that like Black Mirror episode where it could gather data from like social media and populate the data and then be able to spit out like a certain moment or event that happened. And then ChatGPT or whatever AI will be able to respond with that.
Oh, well, certainly. Yeah. At a certain point.
Connecting in an emotional level.
At a certain point, you can have people they've constantly talked about downloading one's consciousness. So if you could stick a person on like an fMRI machine and record memories and record all kinds of like personal recollection plus social media plus their inbox plus, then sure, you could build a personality, synthesize a voice, and have it responsive to questioning. Mm-hmm. But it still begs the question, what is the person? What is the essence? Is it a photo? Is it a sound? Is it or is it their presence, their actual presence instead of their virtual one? It's like a lot of these questions right now about the ethics of these type of things. So especially, I mean, if you imagine having a famous parent, like if Steve Jobs was your father or something, and then, but this could be any celebrity for that matter. There's often kind of an obsession that leads to these type of developments. For some reason, people want it to be Steve Jobs' voice. That is, here we are on Cult of Mac, or it's going to be somebody else who's gone and was beloved.
Yeah,
and then you may find out about it, and maybe you wouldn't have signed off on it yourself, but it doesn't really matter because the data's out there. The internet it continues to be sort of exposes this fact that everything that gets spit into it can and will be utilized in ways you can't fathom at a later date. And therefore, it should be considered at the time of insertion as opposed to thinking about it at a later date. Like, everything has to become more preemptive here. If there's some... But it also begs the question, why? Why do we care about things like privacy? Why do we care about intimacy? Why do we care about private moments rather than public moments? Why should we protect anything from the machine?
Do you have any thoughts on someone using your voice as a chatbot? Do you care?
Well, does it
matter?
The chatbot less so, but more so if they're able to make an indistinguishable recording and post it of me saying something I didn't say. Well, obviously, that would be damaging, right?
Yeah, we've had that before. I think we covered a story with Joe Rogan, and someone used AI to make Joe Rogan promote some sort of like supplement that he didn't.
Yeah, and that stuff's happening far more frequently. It is discernible. You can tell when it's going on, but the way in which we interact with the web at this point and how we sort of gather our information, you can imagine that this will be exploited, increasingly exploited, both based in images and in sound and in video, basically everywhere.
I guess at the moment, it's still kind of fun. It's still kind of fun. You can use Elon's voice or like Steve Jobs' voice, but it gets, I think, really intense when you use like a loved one's voice. There's a lot of questions there.
Well, I suppose it does, but there's also been the talk of other prominent figures, like political figures, and making a political figure say something when they have a huge influence, and then telling people to do a certain thing, have a particular action. So these are all different dangers. There's like the emotional danger, I suppose, of the loved one that you're mentioning, but then there's also the actual physical, societal, political danger of leveraging these tools. You can imagine during a campaign. You can imagine if you're able to extract the right amount of data from the audience base that you're attempting to influence, and then you can kind of hit them with a very specific message, which is seemingly public, but actually private for them exclusively, because you're able to, on an extremely granular level, target certain people. And you could just imagine the level of persuasion, almost like all this finesse that this kind of technology can be helpful in.
Yeah.
I mean, I even just think about the scammers and the spammers, bots, like even in that space. Thank goodness for now it's not sophisticated enough that the average person can spot it. But just like with scammers in the past, you sit there and you look, how did this person not know they were getting scammed? But they did. It worked. So it doesn't really matter. They open their wallet up and there seems to be a numbers game where if you hit enough people and the right people, you're going to get that. You're going to have the intended effect, and that's going to encourage you to keep doing it and exploiting it. So
Sure.